If you were wondering whether right-wing politicians actually learn anything when the voters completely reject them, the answer seems to be no, at least in the case of failed presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. After the never back down slogan proved utterly embarrassing when he in fact backed down and quit the presidential race even before the first primary votes were cast, much less counted, Florida's high-heel sporting governor came back home only to see that one of his biggest hopes for a headline, a massive new attack on transgender Floridians, was apparently going nowhere, even in the Republican-run Florida state legislature. But even that didn't get DeSantis to read the room. Not at all. And with the legislative effort clearly in doubt, DeSantis got some third-level bureaucrat in the Department of Motor Vehicles, someone absolutely no one had ever heard of before, to put out what was styled as an administrative reinterpretation, to announce that more than a decade of Florida law didn't really mean what it had been completely accepted to mean all that time, including completely accepted by DeSantis himself for 6 years as governor. And now, with absolutely no notice, no review, no judicial or legislative oversight, Florida is going to officially define gender as equivalent to sex assigned at birth, and is going to undo any gender marker change on a driver's license that has already been authorized. And further, it's threatening anyone who seeks a marker other than that assigned at birth with criminal charges for, believe it or not, fraud. And presumably, if anyone credits this bit of dictatorial garbage as real law, any tourist who comes to Florida and who's already had a gender marker change in their home state, well, they presumably would also be potentially chargeable with the same criminal fraud. Now, never mind the administrative and criminal law problems that spring immediately to mind when you consider this utter nonsense. Even if you put aside the litigation that will undoubtedly follow, the politics of this have to leave one thinking that DeSantis has completely lost any conservative credentials, creating an all-new administrative state, mandating, DNA or genital checks? And he seems to be completely missing the point that voters across the nation, even in Florida, have consistently been rejecting this obsession that he seems to have with culture war foolishness, when what they actually want is sane solutions to affordability, housing, the environment, and an immigration policy that makes sense, protecting the nation while also protecting what it stands for. But the bottom line for transgender Floridians is that this is yet another harassment and yet another attempt by our far-right little governor to make us all leave the state. So my response? Well, I can't say on social media what he can go do to himself.